Yo, what's going on? Mga petang ina nyo. Joke lang, hindi ako si Doc. Si Triple D Doc. Ngayon, manonood tayo ng top 10 rarest Ark creatures sa buong Ark Survival Evolved. Ilan ba? 15 pala. Yun, manonood tayo. Mag-relax tayo. Ark Survival Evolved. Tagal-tagal din naglalaro nito eh. Miss ko na akong laro nito eh. Nakakamiss. Ano yung mga ambience. Yung mga dinosaur. Nakakamiss maglaro yung magpupuyat ka pa. Hindi mo na alam yung hindi mo na naiisip yung oras. Nakakamiss. Yun, let's get to the video bago pa akong umiyak.
From dodos to titans, Ark is full of a wide variety of creatures to discover and tame. But what creatures are truly the rarest? What are the coolest trophy tames to have under your belt?
Ang pinaka-rarest ata yung ano eh.
Counting down the top 15 rarest creatures
Nactus.
to tame inside of Ark. The criteria I
Nactus
went with is the
yung
amount of
nasa
maps
ano.
creatures spawn on.
Yung mobile. Yung kabayo na may apoy na powers.
How many spawn
I think.
instances the creature has, the cap amount of creatures that can spawn in a certain species at a time, and I'll use taming difficulty as a tiebreaker. If you're confused about what any of those criteria mean,
What?
on instances inside of Ark, the criteria I went with is the amount of maps these creatures spawn on, how many spawn instances the creature has, the cap amount of creatures that can spawn in a certain species.
So, kung ilang beses siya, kung ilang maps siya na-consider, kung nasa ilang map siya nakalagay, kung saan, kung ilang places may spawn, tas kung ilan yung mga quantity na may spawn na pwede. Hindi ko lang kung nag-guess ko yun o nag-guess yung tangay na. Taming difficulty. From Dodo to... Ano nga yun? Carcadontasaurus ba yun? Basta yung kasing laki ng giga. Or from Dodo to Titan. Ayun palang anong kay, hindi ko ano yung ibang creatures. Yung sa ibang mod or maps. Dahil pa lang ako kung laruin. You know what I'm saying?
As a tiebreaker. If you're confused about what any of those criteria mean, don't worry, as I'll make sure to clarify all of them as we go through the list. Just to clarify, I'll be using the Ark Evolved spawn stats because that has the entire cast of creatures. No Ascended exclusive creatures would make this list anyway. Without further ado, let's go to number 15. At number 15, I have the Desert Titan.
What the fuck is that thing?
It's pretty difficult for this list because technically they're not rare at all due to the fact that you can summon them. But the reality
I don't think unicorns are rare.
Substantially harder and rarer to
I've seen many unicorns in my playthrough.
This rarity comes from a couple of factors. The first of which being that the Titans only spawn on one map. That, of course, being extinction.
Damn.
Another thing that makes the Titans inherently rare is that there can only be one of each specific species of Titan on a map at a given time. This cap, unlike other caps for creatures, does not only apply to the wild versions, though. It also applies to the tamed versions. So if there's a
So big,
Titan on
god
the map,
damn.
summon a wild one in. The last major factor that makes these Titans rarer than most other creatures in the game is that they die over time while tamed, so you can't actually keep them permanently. With all of these factors considered that make the creatures time while tamed, so you can't actually keep them permanently. These factors consider that make the creature rarer, on top of the fact that summoning these in is definitely harder than finding random wild versions of creatures, which is what is required for most creature tames in the game. I just put all the Titans in the same ballpark. The reason the Desert Titan is at 15
Parang siyang stingray na
tougher
di mo
boss to tame than the
maintindihan
Forest Titan,
na
and it's easier than number
ibon.
14 on this list, the Ice Titan. I'm not gonna be
Dang.
repetitive here. The reason
I don't know this shit, bro.
the same reasons the Desert Titan is here.
Oh my god.
Only one on the map at a time. Only on one map, Extinction, and definitely harder to tame than a random average creature. The way that I determined that the Ice Titan was harder to tame than the other two is by personal experience and through looking up community feedback. The community feedback portion told me pretty clearly that the Forest Titan was considered generally the easiest, which I also agreed with, and that the Desert and Ice Titan was
cool,
similar
bro.
in difficulty. I personally did not agree with
You
this.
get it?
I think the Ice Titan is substantially harder than the Desert Titan. Maybe that's just me,
I'm
but
sorry.
that's why I just put it one spot above the Desert Titan. But yeah, they're all about the same. Alright, let's move on to creatures that fit the spirit of this challenge a little bit better
big,
now,
bro.
ones that naturally spawn on the map and that are really rare to find. At number 13, I have the Aberrant Megalania. A couple of
What
years ago, this
Megalinas?
creature wouldn't even be close to making a list like this, but nowadays it absolutely
The fuck?
does. There's two main reasons for this. Number one is that it was removed from 2 out of 3 maps it was on, being removed from Aberration and Valguero, and now only spawning on Fjordur. The second reason is because of how
What?
limited its spawn instances
Doesn't
are
it
on
spawn in
Fjordur.
island too?
Spawn instances are basically how many of a creature is allowed to spawn in a given area on a certain map at a time. For example, in the underground area on Fjordur, the Aberrant Megalania shares spawn instances with the other creatures down there. This essentially means you have to kill a different creature species to give more Megalania a chance to spawn in. Every creature has a hard cap for spawns, most of which are capped at 40 at a time on a single map. The reason
Tanginan, tagun-tago. What
this
the
specific
fuck? That shit's scary,
type
man.
of Megalania is so
What
rare is
the
because
fuck?
it only has a few spawn instances in this one specific area on Fjordur and spawns nowhere else in the entirety of Ark. The reason I have this and every other creature on this list above the Titans is
Shit's
because
scary,
the Titans are a
man.
guaranteed spawn and really aren't difficult enough to tame to justify putting them above any rare naturally spawning creature. Out of the genuinely rare naturally spawning
What map
creatures,
is
I think
this?
the Aberrant Megalania is the most common.
Aberrant?
Definitely still rare,
I don't know
so
what Aberrant
deserving of a
is,
slot on
bro.
this list. Coming in at number 12, I have the Noglin. The Noglin is a creature that's exclusive to the Genesis
I haven't
map,
seen that
specifically in the
ever.
Rock Zone and the tunnel leading up to it. One
Sana
challenge
may
with
makita
the
kong
Noglin is that
galing
it
sa
shares
island
spawn
na
instances with
creature.
extremely strong
Parang
partners,
yun pala
so
talaga
actually
lalo.
clearing out the
Wala
area
akong
to get
experience sa
any
iba.
Noglins to spawn in can be quite a challenge. I would say having one of these spawn in is about the same rarity as the Aberrant Megalania. It's just way harder to tame, so it has to be above it on my list. The following are the reasons why the Noglin is much harder to tame. 1. It's a harder area to fight through to find it. 2. It's a harder taming method. 3. It's harder to get the Noglin to a safe area to actually tame it. 4. Aberrant Megalania used to be on 3 maps. The Noglin has only ever been on 1. And 5. The Noglin spawn instances are substantially harder to cycle through. At number 11, I have the Tropio Ignathus. The Tropio only
What
spawns
the
on
fuck is
Crystal
that thing,
Islands
bro?
and Fjordur, and has extremely limited
What
spawn
the
instances on both maps.
hell?
There's also
Oh
a hard
my
cap of 3 wild
god.
Tropios being spawned on the map at the same time. In terms of taming difficulty, this can get complicated if you're unprepared, but it's
Wait,
nothing to
it
write
has
home
a
about
jet,
compared to the
ano?
other creatures on
Jetpack.
this list.
That
Resetting
shit
your spawn
cool.
instances for a Tropio
What?
spawn also really isn't the most effective thing in the world because it's so rare to spawn anyway, but it is definitely easier to cycle through the creatures in these areas than it is for, say, the Noglin. In my opinion, this is the first creature on the list that is genuinely difficult to find, even if you're seeking out to look for it. I think the
Wait,
Megalania
Happy
is
Jaras
tricky
are
to find, but they're definitely
also
much easier to
mahirap,
find
bro.
than the Tropio. At
Happy
number
Jara,
10,
hindi
I
rin
have the
nata.
Giganotosaurus. The Giga isn't
Oh,
rare because of the
darling.
amount of maps it spawns on, but it
Let's
is rare based
fucking
on the amount
go,
of
bro.
times it can spawn on the map. It
Yeah,
shares all of
I
its spawn
rarely see
instances with the
these things,
Karcha, and there
bro.
can only be 3
Karcha
Giga and Karcha
Tantosaurus.
combined on a map at the same time.
Karcha.
This is because the spawn instances shared
These
between the
things are
Karcha
hard
and
to
the Giga
find,
are
bro.
exclusive to these two creatures. This is why it's essentially impossible to cycle creatures out to get a Giga or a Karcha to spawn, which is why these two creatures are rarer than the Tropio. If it wasn't obvious already, I have the Karcha at number 9 on my list. It has the same exact rarity,
Karcha
map range, and
Tantosaurus.
spawn instances as the Giga. The only reason it's higher than the Giga is because simply it's harder to tame a Karcha. That's why I put the tiebreaker at the start of the video.
Fair.
The only way to distinctify
I
these
think
two
Gigas are knockout things and Karchas are you fucking let them pakainin ng mga putang ng dinosaurs mo. Ang hirap nun.
creatures in terms of rarity is based on taming
Papakainin
difficulty.
mo
And maybe if you want to go with Gigas, we're in the
the larger the dinosaur, the
I don't really view
more
them as something
taming
wrong because they're both in the game right now.
effectiveness.
This is also simply
This
harder
shit
to
hard.
tame just because there's more
I
extra
haven't tamed one of these, even the Giga.
The
All
Giga
of my
is a
life,
simple
I
knockout,
haven't.
and this requires wild creatures to be nearby and a few other factors that are just kind of a pain in the ass. So yeah, this is at number 9. At number 8, I have the Titanosaur.
What?
The first thing making the Titanosaur rare is the fact that it does starve itself to death when it's tamed, just like the Titans from earlier in the video, so you can never
Yeah, these
permanently
are hard
tame one of
to
these guys.
tame,
The
bro.
Titanosaur doesn't get its rarity from maps, spawn instances, or spawn locations. It's more so just from not being able to keep it tamed permanently, and it being the hardest thing to tame inside of the game. While that statement might sound rash, it actually is true in my opinion, because the Titanosaur is the only creature I know of that you cannot physically tame on official rates as a solo player. It's impossible to tame it. You simply cannot increase its torpor fast enough to outweigh the torpor drop that the Titanosaur has by default. At number 7, I have the Rhino. Firstly, the Rhino only spawns on the island and Lost Island in swamp biomes, but that's not why this creature is rare. To lay the groundwork for why this is rare, the first thing you need to know is that only 2 rhinos can spawn on the map at a given time. I would ballpark it as the rhinos are about as rare to find as a Giga or a Karcha, but here's the problem. You need to find and kill a male for the pheromone before finding a female in order to actually get the rhino. So to actually find one, you need to find 2 in a gender-specific order, which makes it about 4 times harder to get what you want. In my personal experience, taming a rhino is
I don't get it.
Find and kill a male for the pheromone before finding a female in order to actually get the rhino. So
merong item yung male na kailangan ng female.
To actually find one, you need to find 2 in a gender-specific order, which makes it about 4 times harder to get what you want. In my personal experience, taming a rhino is pretty much always a pain in the ass. It's always a game of, can I find what I'm looking for? And the answer is almost always no. It's just so inconvenient of a process on top of being rare that it's at number 7 on my list. Coming in at number 6, I have Fenrir.
Damn, that's a big ass wolf. What the fuck? Damn!
It's gotten exclusive
I wanna tell those, bro.
Guardian, Fenrir Sulfur, and is rewarded in a cryopod after the fight. Ranking Fenrir is the hardest creature to do on this list, in my opinion, because it's guaranteed to be gotten from killing the boss, but getting it with good stats is a very difficult task. I understand what you may be thinking, is that why does it matter what stats you get on the Fenrir? We're talking about how rare it is, not how rare it is to get good stats on it. But I do think it's important to piece this into the picture when it comes to talking about how rare this creature specifically is. That's because with every other creature on this list, the stats are kind of just a crapshoot or they're guaranteed beforehand. With the Fenrir, you only get 1 good stat trait.
He has a fucking Elsa ability, bro?
Alpha variant. This means it's demanded of you to beat the boss 3 to 4 times if you want to have good weight, good stamina, good health, and good melee damage, which I think can be pretty difficult when it comes to a boss that's as difficult as Fenrir Sulfur. If that argument isn't something you're content with, then maybe just consider the fact that killing Fenrir Sulfur is harder than taming any of the creatures I've mentioned previously besides the Titanosaur, and that if you want to be technical about it, the spawn instances are technically 0 because there's 0 tameable ones spawning, and there's only 1 map you can get it on, Fjordur. I also think there's kind of a tier gap here between everything below this and everything above this on the list, where I think everything below this is definitely a rare creature and cool to have, but not nearly as rare as an insanely rare top 5. Before we get into that insanely rare top 5, I'm going to bring up a couple of honorable mentions first.
Wait,
just
let me guess. Happy Jarash, Unicorns, fucking Necklace, fucking, what's this shit? Oh, fucking, that's it.
The cut. The first honorable mention is kind of obvious. It's just the
The
Forest
fuck is
Titan. I
that?
just left it off because it's the easiest of the Titans, so I left it off by a tiebreaker of taming difficulty. Another honorable mention I have is the Reaper. It's not rare to find a Reaper Queen, but it only spawns on 2 maps and only spawns in dangerous areas. It also does put you down to 1 HP when it impregnates you, so there is a little bit of risk when it comes to taming these guys. It's just Rhinognatha light, basically, so it just missed the cut as well. The third honorable mention I have is it's a pretty rare creature in itself, but it does happen to spawn on every map. The only reason I consider it rare mostly is because of the time-sensitive manner that is finding mutton for an unconscious creature. It can be really annoying for the thing holding you back just being finding an Ovis on the map. But yeah, maybe it feels a little bit more rare than it actually is because of this time sensitivity when it comes to finding.
Team, bro, to have. You can mass produce them teams, bro.
Is whatever creature you need currently. That's right. Whatever creature it is that you need is always going to feel rarer than it really is. Getting Arks is so common.
It's true, bro.
Honorable mentions list
for real.
Anyway, enough with the jokes. I have the Unicorn at number 5. First, let's get all the stats out of the way. Instances for Unicorn on the map is 1 at a time. Oftentimes there's 0 on the map. This is pretty common. It's an extremely rare creature. It's able to spawn on 5 maps, including the Island, Ragnarok, Valgero, Crystal Isles, and Lost Island.
I've seen many other unicorns, bro.
But yet again, it's ridiculously rare. and the tame is easy to do. It's the exact same as the Equus tame. The problem is that unicorns are extremely weak creatures, so they can die to PvE very easily before you find them and during the tame. This actually brings up another reason why the unicorn is so rare. On the off chance they actually do spawn on the map at all, they're the most likely of all the rare creatures to just die before you even find it. The reason I have it is because I find the unicorn to be slightly less rare on Valguero specifically. I found a couple of them on Valguero over the years without even looking for it while in the White Cliffs area with the Deinonychus, and I've definitely stumbled upon
My experience with this is crazy because nung nanonood ako about sa how to find the unicorn, 5 seconds after, boom, tangina. Just trust me, bro. Nangyari sa akin yun. I promise.
unicorns that I have any of the other 4 creatures on this list that I haven't mentioned yet combined. At number 4, I have the Liopleurodon. This creature is an absurdly rare spawn
What the
on
fuck
every
is
map
that?
that it's included on. Out of all the maps that it does spawn on, I've noticed it be most common on Crystal Isles from personal experience, but it's definitely still more of a rare spawn on Crystal Isles than the unicorn is on Valguera. For context, it's rare because of the maps it spawns on, because it spawns on the island, the center, Ragnarok, Valguera, Crystal Isles, Genesis Part 2, and Lost Island. You know, the wiki says it spawns on all those maps, but I've never seen one on Gen 2 or Valguera. I couldn't find any information online about the spawn caps for these things, but I would be shocked if there's more than one at a time on the map. They're just so
big.
rare. Another thing that gives it the edge over the unicorn, in my opinion, is it just spawns in less accessible areas, and the taming method is a lot more preparation requiring than the unicorn, so I think you'd have to really seek after taming one of these.
I haven't seen one of those.
Unicorn who you
For
can
real.
kind of stumble into. The biggest reason, however, that this is higher than the unicorn is that the tame isn't permanent. When you tame a Liopleurodon, it disappears after 30 minutes, so you can never keep it as a trophy tame. The other thing that makes this so rare, besides the fact that it's pretty much useless and never worth taming,
I hate those
is
things,
the fact
bro.
that the taming method is so janky. The whole process of dropping it the honey doesn't work half the time, and the Liopleurodon being aggressive while also disappearing if attacked by anything is really just kind of annoying more than anything. That's besides the point, though. It's really not that hard of a tame once you get used to the janky nature of it.
Sounds pain in the ass, bro.
Because it's really just insanely rare, super niche, nobody really uses it, and the taming method is pretty annoying as well. Coming in at number 3, we have the Phoenix. The Phoenix only spawns on Scorched Earth during the Heatwave event, and only one can spawn on the map at a time. When the Heatwave is active, the Phoenix
People call necklace or necklace. Necklace. Noctus. Noctis. I think it's Noctis.
and re-enters the ground to wait to rise again during the next heat wave. This creature is also a complete pain in the ass to find if you're just trying to find it normally because of the movement debuff during this event as well. The best strategy I've found to actually locate the Phoenix is to fly around with a Parasaur that has the detecting enemies feature on, and eventually, if you're super patient, it will scan the Phoenix while it's invisible in the ground during the cooldown between heat waves. Once you find where the Phoenix is located, you can look this up online. There's a pretty basic trap for it. The taming method is unique and really cool, but it's not difficult in the slightest once you actually find it. Although I describe it as basic, the reality is you need to do a lot of prep work to actually tame one of these things, and the reward is pretty minuscule besides having a really cool trophy tame. Most Ark players will tell you that the Phoenix or the Unicorn is the ultimate trophy tame in all of Ark, but I personally disagree with this opinion. The Phoenix is undoubtedly the rarest creature that's tameable 24/7, 365, but it's definitely not the rarest creature in Ark history. Here's the top 2. At number 2, I have the Zombie Dodo.
Yo, what?
The Ark Fear Ascended event just came out. How could the Zombie Dodo still be in the top 2 for rarity? But here's the thing. Even though the creature is available right now, you have to understand the context that this hasn't been available for 4 years, and we don't know if this event is coming back in the future, so this might be your last chance to ever tame one of these things legitimately. Also, actually
see one of those,
some of these zombie dodos is no slouch of a task either, because killing the Dodo Rex is an extremely difficult feat. The Dodo Rex spawns once every 3 nights during the Fear Ascended events, and it has 666,000 HP, flamethrower breath, and spawns zombie dodos to fight with it that are pretty strong as well. The zombie dodo has no inventory, nor can it lose hunger, be fed, gain experience, or lay eggs. Otherwise, it acts as a dodo. The opinion that I have is that this is the greatest tame in Ark. Nor can it lose hunger, be fed, gain experience, or lay eggs. Otherwise, it acts as a living dodo. The opinion that I have is that this is the greatest trophy tame in Ark history because it literally does nothing. It actually has zero use case, zero utility in any sense. At least things like the unicorn and the phoenix technically can do something. The only things you get out of having a zombie dodo are showing off that you killed a dodo rex at some point and that you've somehow been able to keep that zombie dodo alive. Without further ado, let's get into the top creature on my list. At number 1, I have the zombie.
Oh,
this
it's
is the final
not this,
tiebreaker
bro.
on this list for taming difficulty, and here's why. The zombie wyvern and zombie dodo have been obtainable for the exact same amount of time in Ark's history. Every time the zombie
Damn.
wyvern has been available in Ark, the zombie dodo has been available right alongside it. Honestly, it was a really close decision between whether the wyvern or the dodo was harder to get. I opted with the wyvern because I think the boss fight for the dodo wyvern is substantially harder than the dodo rex fight, but not everybody agrees with me. A large percentage of the player base would argue the Dodo Rex is harder because actually finding the Dodo Rex on the map, especially when you're on such a confined time restraint to the midnight to 6 a.m. time slot.
Kinda sad, bro. They didn't
If you
include
want
the
more
Noctis.
information,
I fucking love Noctis, bro, but I haven't tamed it. Only watched Swab. Amen. Yeah.
on the Dodo Rex or Dodo Wyvern or anything else that came out in the Fear Ascended event, I posted a video earlier this week covering the entire thing. I'll leave it in the end card at the end of this video for you to click on, but just wanted to let you know now. The zombie wyvern is rideable and quite strong, but the functionality of it being better than a wyvern is why I don't think it should be considered a trophy tame and why I think the zombie dodo is the best trophy tame in Ark. Well, that's my list. I'm pretty confident in these rankings. I've gone back and forth on a few of them during making this script, but
It's pretty good list, bro.
the gap is definitely closer between the Phoenix and these two now, but yeah, it doesn't change anything, at least for me. If you disagree with the order of my rankings or think I snubbed a rare creature, leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to go through them and be proven wrong.
I see y'all in the next episode. Boom! Hindi pa na